What's up, everybody? Special edition of NFL Food for Thought. I bet you didn't think we'd be popping up in the middle of May, but the NFL draft was crazy. I'm Justin Carlucci here with the Chief, Will Priester. What's going on, Chief? How are you?
And I'm going to make my introduction crazy brief. We got a living legend that's going to be joining us this week on a one-off pod. Everybody knows who I am, and you know this gentleman a lot more than me. Let's roll out the red carpet and the white gloves for our good friend, beermakersfan. I'm just going to shut up and let this man hop right in this thing. Beer, what is up, my brother?
Chief, that's quite the introduction, my man. I don't need all that. I'm just one of the fellas, man, cracking beers, talking to draft. A big fan of the show, so glad I got the invite here and talking some NFL draft. I mean, can never talk enough NFL draft. I mean, rookie drafts are starting. I'm in a ton of dynasty leagues, so really getting things lined up here. But excited to be on the show here, guys.
Yeah, and of course, it's best ball mania already. Yep. I mean, it's really taken the industry by storm. I'm seeing a lot of Eric Beimfor all over my Twitter feed already. What's up, yep. Eric? Love the stuff at Spike Week. So if you guys are craving some best ball content, check out Eric. Give him a follow. Check out Spike Week and good stuff. Jeff Edelstein wrote a great column for RG this week, and it was about where and when you draft the most. And if you haven't read Jeff's column, you should check it out. When you're on your mobile phone and you're dipping in a best ball or something, it's like the toilet draft where I'm locking myself in and telling the family I need some time, got a tummy ache, or the drunk draft where you had a little more than a six-pack or something, and you wake up and you have six quarterbacks on your best ball team, stuff like that. So a good read over there from Jeff Edelstein. But the NFL draft, fellas, I mean, a lot of people were kind of crapping on this draft class, saying the talent was down and this and that. There's a lot of pros in this draft, and it was nothing short of super exciting. And, we could talk about surprises, and I was one of the most shocked after it broke of the A.J. Brown trade. So an emotional roller coaster for yours truly here as a Titans fan. But listen, that was just the beginning of plenty of trades. But A.J. Brown is an Eagle. And how shocked were you, Chief? Tell me about that. When you saw that news break, did you expect anything like that to happen?
No, I didn't. I mean, when you've got, I guess what we would consider one of the better young receivers in his prime, nobody expects him to get sent out the door, right? Like maybe you expect a Baker Mayfield to get traded. Maybe you expect a Daniel Jones to get traded. Maybe you expect, Drew Lock is already traded. But I'm saying maybe you expect one of those guys to go out the door. You don't expect what I consider your franchise wide receiver to get sent packing. I mean, I think it just caught us all by surprise, and we're going to see how it pans out for both sides. What it did say to me, though, is Jalen Hurts better get it right this season, or he's gone. If he doesn't get it right this year, there's no way he stays in Philly. I can tell you that right now. I don't live in Philly, but the expectations are high when you bring in A.J. Brown and pair him with Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts. They want to win this division. They went out and got a weapon. And Jalen Hurts, not the coach, Jalen Hurts is on the hot seat right now. Like, it started now. Training camp, the news, whatever you can think of. If he doesn't get it right, he's gone, period.
Yeah, beer. I'm like 90 minutes from Philly, and I'm the Titans fan here in Eagles Nation, so my phone was blowing up. I poured out a shot or two. I was like, "What is happening? Were the Eagles winners here, or what's the ceiling for Philly now? What are your thoughts on that deal?"
Yeah, I think they are winners. I mean, you look at the price they paid, and at first you're like, "That's it? That's what you gave up for AJ Brown?" And there was probably a lot of GMs around the league with the same thought, like that's all it costs to get one of the best receivers in all of football. So I know they're high on Traylon Burks. I'm sure we're going to talk about him tonight, but to just slot him in, like, okay, we don't want to pay AJ Brown. Now we're throwing it to Burks, Robert Woods, and not much else here. So I think obviously a huge hit if you're a Titan fan.
Yeah.
Luuch, you know that it sucks. The guy is, arguably a top 3, top 5 receiver at worst in the league. As far as for him, I think it's going to be a little bit of a step down as far as our fantasy expectations for him. In Tennessee, both teams very run heavy. In Tennessee, he was really the only show in town. You had minor appearances by a guy here and there. Corey Davis had a few weeks when he was there. Julio Jones comes in. He doesn't do much of anything. Now you go to Philly, and Chief mentioned Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. I mean, it's a loaded up offense. So I agree completely with the sentiments on Jalen Hurts. Like, here you go. Here is all the weaponry that you need. You're either legit and our guy, or we're moving on. We're looking for somebody else next year. But for A.J. Brown, honestly, probably a lateral move. I move him down a little bit in my rankings. I'm not going to give him a huge drop like I see a lot of people kind of panicking out there. So, but shocked to say the least. But guys, it's kind of been the season. I mean, Devontae Adams gets traded. Tyreek Hill gets traded. So in a normal season, this is probably the highlighted trade. This is the biggest trade we've seen this year. It just falls in line with some of these other receiver trades that have been going on. So crazy goings on there in the NFL draft for sure.
Let me piggyback that one because the more we talk about it now, and I didn't even think about this before the pod, if you're going to make that trade, like, isn't this the year to make it when there aren't any elite quarterbacks in the draft? Like, if you were going to draft a quarterback, if you were thinking you were going to move on, unless you're getting Russell Wilson, like this was the year to get one of the carousel quarterbacks. Unless you're going to get Russ or try to pry Aaron Rodgers away from Green Bay or go get one of the top tier quarterbacks, there was no reason for them to go out and get a quarterback that was going to be equal or less than Jalen Hurts in the draft. Might as well go ahead and shore up your wide receiver room. The more I think about this is a good call for Philly because the quarterbacks are going to be better next year. Like, this is when you do it, and they won't have to pay their quarterback nearly as much money as they would have to pay Jalen Hurts in 2 seasons when they have to either put him on the franchise or renegotiate his contract for more money. The more I think about it, Philly made a huge deal at the right time, and I didn't even think about that until Beer started talking, for sure.
For the circumstances, there's a million sources to get news on your favorite team. I follow like 5 beat writers for Titans football that like I actually trust, and I think they have the scoop and they're not super biased or anything. And the more I read and as news broke, it sounded like AJ Brown wanted out. At first I thought, no way. Like I didn't understand because I have the utmost confidence in John Robinson, Titans general manager. He's done a great job with that team. I mean, we saw that defense, against the Bengals. I mean, he's really put a lot of pieces together here. And outside of a catastrophic Ryan Tannehill collapse, who knows what the ceiling would have been for them as the season moved on. But leading into this week, it pretty much came out that A.J. Brown wanted a ridiculous upper end of $80 million guaranteed from Tennessee, and then immediately was like, well, I want to trade that. I don't know how much of that was his agent and how much of that was him, but I feel like it was pretty mutual between the two, and he's super good friends with Jalen Hurts. He wanted to get paid, and, if you're Tennessee, you can't pay the guy $80 million. What are you going to do 24 hours before the draft? John Robinson is like, well, I need to get a damn return on this guy because if he sits out the whole year and walks, we get no assets, and I'm looking like a jerk. So what does he do? He moves up to 18 to get A.J. Brown's replacement, and I don't expect Traylon Burks to be a superstar, but if there's anybody that's like a spitting image of A.J. Brown, it might be him in this draft. So the fact that they had to make this decision within 24 hours where A.J. Brown, his agent, said, like, well, we want out, and they would have sat out this year. It is what it is. They had to part ways, and Traylon Burks is the new guy there in Tennessee. And who knows? I mean, I think he has some upside as a rookie in a play-action offense where with Derrick Henry, and you got to respect the run. I mean, it's like playing catch with when you're running slant routes over the middle. So I think Burks could have some success here. So all things considered, it did sound like A.J. Brown did not want to return. He wanted the money. He's out here deleting tweets already. He's a big tweet deleter. I hope Philly is easy on him. I'm like getting some Ben Simmons vibes with like his social media. I hope it's not Tennessee. When you're in Nashville, the fans are just happy to have a talented wide receiver on the team because the last one was Derek Mason. So you get down to Philly Nation where the bar is always high and we'll see. But I agree with you. I think it's like a lateral fantasy move. Don't be shocked if he's not going to get that 100 target mark this year from Jalen Hurts. I don't think, but I think Dallas Goedert might be the winner there in Philly. I mean, he's going to have a lot of room over the middle there with Smith and Brown on both sides. So I think, all things considered, Tennessee got a return for him. They ended up picking up a 3rd-round pick, which they did not have. And they landed Malik Willis in the 3rd round. We'll get the quarterbacks moving forward there. Any other surprises in the 1st round, Beer? Let me know your thoughts here. Did you expect Trayvon Walker to go 1 over Hutchinson?
I did. Well, it started gaining steam in the betting markets, and that's usually a good indicator. These people got a lot of money on the line. So, as we got closer, the odds started going. It started at minus 150, then it was minus 300. That thing got up to minus 450. So at some point, it's like, okay, that is a huge number with that much money on the line. Somebody knows something. So was a little bit of a surprise. He was a guy that you heard the whispers, very athletic, kind of raw. You look at the tape, wasn't as productive as maybe you liked, but the battle between the GM, Balky, the owner, that's what it sounded like it came down to. Balky really wanted this guy. Owner kind of wanted Aiden Hutchinson. Well, they kept Balky around. I guess you got to make him happy getting him his guy. So it'll take some time to see. Did they make the right play? Was it the right selection up top? So not surprised again, just with all the betting that's now on the NFL draft. And what a fun event to bet on, guys. I mean, there's not much better things to bet on right now than getting in early on the NFL draft. Just taking some stands on guys and guys you don't believe in. Nakobe Dean was one. I was like, this guy is not a 1st-round pick. All these books have him priced as 30, 31 as a draft spot, and lots of red flags with that guy, and he ends up sliding. So just opportunities like that, but was not surprised with Walker. We'll see if he was the right pick or not. And then real quick with A.J. Brown, didn't sound like he wanted to be there. He played the delete game, like you said, and I'm removing this from my Twitter. That's like the big power move right now. Kyler Murray, A.J. Brown, I'm going to remove you from my Twitter. Debo Samuel, who has San Francisco back in his Twitter now, but that didn't sound like they wanted to pay him either. And Philly snap call, like, yep, we're paying you, guaranteed. We're locking you in. So sometimes it's the money. Tennessee is a whole nother, I'm sure we're going to get into the Ryan Tannehill quotes, and I don't want to groom this guy, and you got a mess there on your hands, Luuch. I mean, Derrick Henry got to get about 900 carries this year. It might be a rough year there in Nashville.
Yeah, he's not getting any younger either.
No,
we'll see. But a lot of media around the Titans, which I'm not used to. But yeah, the A.J. Brown situation, whatever. It happened. It's in the past. He is a big tweet deleter though. Like, he deleted tweets today. Like, I see them like, why are you deleting tweets on a Thursday? Like, it's Cinco de Mayo, go have fun. But he deleted a tweet that said, "It wasn't my fault, Tennessee, the day of the trade." So that was up for about 90 seconds. The Titans Twitter, they're like savages. They'll screenshot anything. So I don't know what the deal is. He seemed awfully happy getting the bag on the FaceTime with Jalen Hurts. So whatever. I mean, hey, he was a great Titan, yak monster. And I'm just hoping Treylon Burks can, evolve into something close to what A.J. Brown is. But if you're Tennessee also, like, the money's off the books, you got to extend Jeffrey Simmons at some point, keep that defense together. So we'll see what happens here. Chief, anything else on the A.J. Brown garbage and any surprises on your end in the 1st round?
No, I mean, I think I'm good with Brown, man. I've been enlightened here today by all of these wonderful comments. I think this is just kind of an aside. Ohio State just keeps cranking out wide receivers like every year. And I think that's a big deal to me because it just kind of gets me excited about watching a little bit more college football, kind of see, who's the next guy that's coming out of there. And they've still got one guy left, but I mean, Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave going back to back. Jets, Saints. I thought that was another big deal. I mean, you look at he's there with a guy by the name of Michael Thomas. It's just Ohio State is becoming wide receiver right before our eyes, and I just want to see what they're going to do with the rest of these guys in their wide receiver room as the rest of the season kind of develops. But I thought that was kind of a big deal. I mean, when you look over the landscape, and these guys are number ones, they're not like down the totem pole. Like Michael Thomas is a number one. What's the guy in Washington? His name is eluding me now.
Oh, Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, Terry McLaurin. He's a number one. Like these guys are big time wideouts now. Some of their secondary guys like Paris Campbell and with the Colts, he's kind of maybe like a number 3, but even still, like these guys are playing meaningful snaps in the NFL. Just keep that on your radar because they got another guy coming out of there in another year or two that's probably going to be on this list. So wide receiver U is out there at OSU for sure.
Chief, he's the best one of the group. I'm just going to tell you, Smith and Jigba is better than both of these two, in my opinion. So he's going to be an absolute monster this year for OSU, and maybe one of the top picks in the draft next year. I would be willing to put some money on that now. The guy's a stud.
Beer, that might be one for us to try to dig up.
Yep.
And see if we can get ahead of it. Because if they got him anywhere, I don't think they'll have him outside of the top 10. If they got him anywhere outside of the top 10 right now, like that's a future I'd get in on for sure.
Back-to-back Ohio State receivers at 10 and 11. Pennsylvania, I grew up here, raised here, born in New York, actually, grew up here. Strange gambling state. Like I can play DFS. I have sportsbook access. I don't have prize picks. I have underdog fantasy, but I can't play their prop game. I can't bet on draft props here. So maybe next draft, I'm going to have to take a drive. If you guys got a spare room or something like that, maybe I could crash for the night. And
always welcome here, brother. Michigan, anything goes in Michigan. You bet on whatever the hell you want. So come on up.
Just a weird, I can't play college fantasy sports. They're just bizarre. So I have access. I'm grateful to have all the sportsbook access, but couldn't do the prop game, and that was a lot of fun. It seemed like for you guys. Okay, who were some of these winners? Who? I mean, listen, the Jets had a lot of picks. It's really hard to screw up a draft when you have a lot of picks, but I like what they did. Chief, I'll throw it over to you. Give me a big winner from the NFL draft.
Well, this is something we kind of talked about offline a little bit. I actually think the winner are all these teams that took quarterbacks in the third round. And I sat back and looked at this draft, and of course, we felt like the quarterback position wasn't as strong as usual. But maybe teams are getting smarter. Maybe they realize, hey, we don't need to draft Baker Mayfield in the first round, and if you draft him, good luck, right? Maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to fail because they drafted Kenny Pickett in the first round. I don't believe that. I think Pickett will be a pro. But this third round quarterback class, Desmond Ridder, Malik Willis, and then we got Matt Corral coming over to Carolina. I thought this was extremely good value for teams that needed quarterbacks. I felt like they couldn't have set themselves up any better for success with the value they got on these picks. I think these third round quarterbacks are the winners, especially Ridder and Matt Corral. Like they're going to play. There's no way Desmond Ridder doesn't get in this game over Mariota. I just don't see it. Now maybe they hold Malik Willis back a little bit, and if Tannehill struggles, then maybe he starts to hear the cowbells. But these other two, I think they're going to get a chance to play now. And looking at how these teams drafted in the first round, right? So you get Desmond Ridder in the third round, but then they get him a really good wide receiver in round one. And then Carolina drafts a lineman in round one. And then even Tennessee, they draft a receiver in round one. I think they've tried to help these guys be set for success right out of the gate, whether they start day one or by the sixth or seventh game. I like what those three teams did at quarterback. I think they got really good value.
Yeah, Beer, is there downside at taking those quarterbacks in round three? I mean, it's a third round pick. a much cheaper contract than for, say, Kenny Pickett. I think about like a $9 million difference or something like that between rounds 1 and round 3. So yeah, go tell me about whatever you want, but I'm curious your take on Kenny Pickett in round 1 to Pittsburgh, and then this other crop of quote unquote tier 1 2022 prospects that slid so far.
Yeah, I don't hate taking a shot on him. I mean, the history suggests none of these guys are going to work out. I mean, you can always pull the Tom Brady card and a couple other examples, Russell Wilson, but generally, if you're not a first-round quarterback, you're likely not going to stick around in the league very often. But these are all situations that the Chief brought up where they're still looking for a guy. So why not, bring this guy in? If anything, it's camp competition, somebody you can groom a little bit. So I don't hate those plays on some of those guys. Corral, who are some of the other mid-round guys? Washington took, who did they grab?
Sam Howell.
Yep, Sam Howell. I don't mind that at all. So taking shots deep on some of these guys. Malik Willis obviously fell a lot later than we did. The one I really liked, guys, was Desmond Ridder to Atlanta. I mean, Marcus Mariota, sure, I think he should get an opportunity. Can he be a starting quarterback in this league? That is obviously still up for debate. I'm still a fan. I do think he can be, a low-end starting quarterback for you. So, but to take Desmond Ridder there, a guy who's kind of gaining steam in that draft process, I don't hate that whatsoever. Seems like a pro's pro. Guy's got a cannon for an arm. Who the hell he's going to throw to, I don't know, but I don't hate that pick at all. But as far as winners, it's easy again. You mentioned the Jets and just bringing in impact guy after impact guy. I mean, you bring in Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, you add him now to Elijah Moore and Corey Davis. So you're surrounding your number 2 pick from last season with some weapons. You add Breece Hall in the second round, the best running back in the draft. You jump in and grab Jermaine Johnson, a guy that was gaining a lot of steam in the draft process. I mean, we're seeing him possibly as high as number 2 overall to Detroit. So he slides, they jump in and grab him. So, you grab 4 of the best players in the draft. Like you said, it's not hard to mess that up, but how many times, Luuch, have we seen teams with all of these picks and they just miss and whiff, and end up one guy maybe out of your 4 picks. But the team I really was impressed with, and somehow every year they just sit back, the Baltimore Ravens, and stuff just lands in their lap. Everyone's making all these moves. They just sit there. Oh, sure, Kyle Hamilton, we'll take him. Sure, Tyler Lindenbaum, we'll take him. David Ojabo, yeah, we'll let you sit for a year, add you to our defense next year when you're healthy. So Ozzie Newsome and that team just continues to dominate the draft, do it the right way, not make all these crazy moves, just sit back. And these professional players, when you look at this draft class, these are guys that can come in right away and they scream Baltimore Raven. They just fit with what they do. I think they knocked it out of the park this year.
And you're right, Beer, because I told you guys I've got my PFF grades up. And you're absolutely right. They gave him an A+, and they didn't have to do anything. They just literally let everybody keep doing their thing, and they just pick and choose whoever they want, and they just keep building this team. Incredible draft by them for sure. Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we're sitting there watching it, and it's like, wow, they're sitting here with all these options on the clock, didn't have to do anything. Of course they're taking Kyle Hamilton here. Of course they're taking Lindenbaum, adding him to the line. So yeah, just an incredible. I mean, they're one of the best every year. They just seem to knock it out of the park. That's why they're in the playoff hunt and the Super Bowl chase every single year. Now, the trade of Hollywood Brown, I'm sure we're going to get into that. What was a little crazy. I mean, now you look around at their weaponry, and Mark Andrews may have to see 200 targets in that offense, but him reunited with Kyler Murray down there. And then we get to DeAndre Hopkins news. Like, okay, now this makes a little bit of sense on why they made a move, but just so many dominoes in place. So it was a crazy night.
Baltimore is going to be the new Eagles. It's basically going to be Charlie Kohler and Mark Andrews catching everything.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, but they have a defense. Like they have linebackers. I mean, how unlucky did Baltimore get? And they unlucky, unhealthy. I mean, they couldn't even get out of training camp. They're having friendly fire. The guys taking each other out. Half their secondary was in shambles before September 10th when the NFL started. So it stinks for Lamar because he doesn't strike you as a guy that you want to take weapons away from. And, as much as, Marquise Brown dropped some balls here or there, I mean, he stretched the defense and was their guy on the outside. So, you think Mark Andrews is going to have 200 targets. That might be all of Lamar's pass attempts for a year. So maybe they're not done. Maybe they add a veteran. There's still a couple of receivers in free agency that are going to be cheaper as the calendar, like as we keep moving forward here in the calendar year. So I was going to add that I'm not sure if the Titans are done. I mean, John Robinson wants to bridge the gap. Tannehill's contract's up. He had a bad regular season because Julio and Henry and like everyone was hurt. They still won 12 games with that defense. And of course, Henry missed like half the year. So, maybe we shouldn't be this down on Tennessee. I mean, they play in a very winnable division other than the Colts. No offense to the other two franchises in the AFC South. That's a very friendly division to maybe get in the playoffs, get hot. And once you get in the dance with Derrick Henry, like anything could happen. So I don't think it's a total wash, but, there's guys out there a prove-it deal for Will Fuller. Why not? I mean, who knows where Beckham's going to land? I don't know how healthy he is. Keelan Cole. There are some serviceable guys out there at wide receiver. Jarvis Landry doesn't have a home. I mean, so I think a team like the Titans are probably still in the market to look for a cheaper deal. I think Baltimore is going to be a player, I think, here too as well because, I mean, God, how good is the AFC North now in the National Football League? Insanity. So I agree. The Ravens smashed the draft. They must have really liked all these guys they got in the fourth round because they didn't parlay any of it to move up at all. They had, 6 fourth-round picks, I think? Yeah. They kept all of them. So they must have been very confident in their scouting and their research, and I think they had a great draft as well. Talk to me about your Green Bay Packers because I want to know what's going through your head. They clearly had a game plan. They clearly had a feel for this draft. I did hear rumblings that they wanted that Treylon Burks might have been their guy, but the A.J. Brown thing happened, which I feel good about in a sense because there's no way that Treylon Burks would have lasted to Tennessee's original pick at 26. With the way the receivers were going off the board, then Jahan Dotson goes to the Commanders, who I love, by the way. I love Dotson. It's a weird, like in hindsight thing. The trade happened for Tennessee, but there's no way they would have got Burks, who was kind of the closest thing to A.J. Brown in the draft. I'm not saying in terms of talent, in terms of physicality and what he does. So Green Bay goes, defense? Are you thinking, oh, shit, here we go again? But they get their guy, Christian Watson, and, with those defensive picks and landing Watson, who I like, I don't know what your feelings are about him. I was like, wow, Green Bay knew what they were doing, and they nailed it. That was my opinion.
Yeah, I think they were a little bit on their heels with all those receivers going so early. It's like being in a fantasy draft. We've all done it, and there's a run on a position and you're like, oh shit, I gotta figure out an audible here. I got to do something else here. So I like that they didn't reach at that point. The top 6 receivers were all gone. Then you started getting into this group of Watson, Sky Moore, things like that. The guys that probably weren't first round picks. So I like them grabbing Quay Walker. I like the Devontae Wyatt pick. I mean, at solidifying that defense. My issue, I like Christian Watson. Here's the issue with it. We know he's raw. I mean, the skill set is there, big, athletic, strong kid, but I don't think he's going to instantly come in and make an impact. And when you have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, how many years does this guy have left? I mean, I give him 2, maybe 3 years of elite level play left. How long is it going to take Christian Watson to develop? Because I don't think it's going to happen in year 1. We also know Rodgers can be stubborn as a damn mule. If a guy is dropping the ball, I'm just not going to throw to him. Watson had some struggles with drops in college. So this just doesn't seem like the pairing that you thought it would be. If they think he's going to step in and he can provide similar skills to Devontae Adams, I'm not saying he's going to be Devontae Adams, but some of those bubble screens, things like that they love to use Adams on, I think Watson fits in that case, but I don't know how quickly he'll be able to acclimate to this offense. So you mentioned some of the teams that will be active in the free agent market. You got to think Green Bay is looking at Beckham, looking at Landry, looking at Will Fuller, all the names that you mentioned, doing their homework here, where Watson's not instantly thrown into the fire. I still think you have a little buffer with a guy like Alan Lazard, who Rodgers seems to trust. You brought in Sammy Watkins. We'll see if he's able to give you anything, where maybe Watson can be your 3-4, see how quickly he develops. Next year, he comes in as your 1 or 2, but I didn't hate the pick. I just don't know how well it fits with Aaron Rodgers. I actually like Romeo Doubs, who they got later in the draft. I think that's a guy that's a little bit more pro-ready. I think Watson, obviously, bigger ceiling, a guy that has the potential to be a star, but Doubs could come in right away and contribute in year 1.
let me just take the gloves off because I have Beer Makers Fan and I have Chief Justice on the show. And I would say back in November, we had a really good food for thought episode. And, we go off the rails and we love having fun debates. There's somebody on this show. And Chief knows exactly where I'm going with this, that labeled Aaron Rodgers as the greatest game manager of all time.
Oh, and boy.
I just want to hear, this is a family show, Beer, so we got to keep it PG.
Absolutely.
Let me get into this here. Let me get into this spicy thing, guys.
Listen, here's my argument. I'm standing by this. Beer's my boy. He knows this. But Aaron Rodgers has got to get it done. How many passes are we going to give Aaron Rodgers every year when we say, hey, he doesn't have this, he doesn't have that, this, that, and the third? I'm tired of hearing that. Aaron Rodgers is the greatest talent of our generation. Okay, get me the championships, right? Like we're in this NFL business to win championships. It doesn't count if you get to the playoffs every year and you can't seal the deal. I don't care if you drew up a play in the dirt and beat the Dallas Cowboys. You didn't win the championship, right? And so if we're going to, and the problem is the measure in our generation is Tom Brady. And I know that's the bigger issue. We're measuring championships against Tom Brady, and we're saying, okay, if you're going to be labeled or have this level of greatness, you've got to start winning championships. And I feel like his whole career has been winning, but no championships. If that's the case, I mean, is he better than Drew Brees? Is he better than Big Ben? Is he really more talented than these guys? Because his career at some point, while Tom Brady has been a Superman, his career is going to have to end up on the decline at some point, and the winning is going to stop, or it's going to decline with his ability to contribute to those wins. Get me the championships, I'll change my stance. Right now, he's the greatest, most talented game manager in the history of the NFL, just because I feel like he's overhyped. Okay, win an MVP, no problem. Where's the championship? I
finally get Beer on a show, and you're gonna piss him off, man. But he waited so patiently. For his rebuttal here, so I want to hear it. He had Mike McCarthy his whole career. I will say that. So that kind of
see that's another pass. You see, we make excuses for Rodgers. We might as well just Baker Mayfield's great too. He had Freddie Kitchens for part of his career. He had Hugh Jackson. He's had everybody. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear Mike McCarthy. Is Mike McCarthy terrible? Yes, I will agree. But he didn't listen to Mike McCarthy anyway. I don't want to hear it. All right, Beer, my bad.
Hey, you're on a roll, brother. I respect the hell out of you. You tell it like it is. So as much as Luuch would love a boxing knockout, drag out fight here, Chief, I'm actually with you. Now I'm going to take issue with the game manager part, because the guy is obviously elite, like you said, one of the extreme talents that we have in this league. But trust me, as a Green Bay Packer fan, and some fans don't want to hear this. I live in Michigan, so I try to say this to any of my buddies that are Lions fans. I get the F you, I don't want to hear it. But 30 years of quarterbacking, Chief, we can go back to Brett Favre. 2 Super Bowls? My whole life has been Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. You would think to show for that, I got more than 2 Super Bowls. And again, if you're a fan of a team that doesn't have any, I'm just looking at this, as a fan, that we should have way more. So I agree with you, and I don't like the excuses. If you are that good, it shouldn't matter, Mike McCarthy. It shouldn't matter. We haven't drafted any receivers. None of that should come into play at all. Make it happen with what you have. You're so good, make it happen with Alan Lazard. Make it happen with, you beg for Randall Cobb back. Got to have Randall Cobb. Want Randall Cobb. Here's your guy. Make it happen. So I'm with you. Again, game manager's a bit strong, Chief, but should have more on the resume. Multiple Super Bowls, losing at home as well. I mean, how many times are they the number 1 seed? Bow out in the playoffs. Like, okay, you get beat by Brady. That's fine. But, some of these teams, you get beat by Eli Manning. Michael Vick comes in to Lambeau Field and ends in mystique. I mean, we were undefeated in the playoffs at home, and
Michael
Vick just comes in and, takes a dump on Lambeau Field and says, yeah, forget your mystique. So I'm with you. It's been a great run. It's been fun to watch him and Favre. I can go all the way back to 1991, whenever Favre started. Hell of a run. Guys are fun to watch. Rodgers, incredible. Maybe the best regular season quarterback we've seen, but you have to get it done in the playoffs, Chief. I agree 1,000%. We can look at the NBA. Charles Barkley, you were great. Did you get it done? No. So you're not one of the all-time greats. Patrick Ewing, fantastic. Did you get it done? No. Back to football. Dan Marino, you're incredible. Records everywhere. You didn't win me a title. So that's the way it is. It's just facts. Brady, Montana, these are the guys that are going to go down as the best because they got it done when they needed to get it done.
And let me just say, too, even Elway, as bad as we think he is as a GM, I mean, listen, he's got multiple championships. Yep. Peyton Manning, on his last leg in Denver, yes, the defense helped him win, and it's the truth. Those are facts.
Just don't say Eli. Don't say Eli Manning, Chief, because then I might have to. I might have to leave the pod here.
Eli's not talented. Eli's not on the. He's not on the same talent wavelength. So I'm not worried about Eli. But I'm saying the all-time great quarterbacks, they got it done, and I think it's really the reason why I always have this rebuttal is because Aaron Rodgers has a certain cachet, not only in the media but in the NFL. Like, this guy wins MVPs. It's not like he's just, has 25 touchdowns and they win and this guy's legit good, but he can't finish. And I'm like, I want him to finish because I think he should have at least 3 titles, like at least 3.
Agreed. So how many does he have to win for you? Like, if he wins one more, does your argument change? Does he have to win 2 more? Like, where's that level for you? I think if 2 is still disappointing, but at least it's not, you only won 1. You got that multiples. I don't have to listen to Eli Manning has more titles than Aaron Rodgers. So What is 1 more enough for you, Chief?
I think 1 more is enough given where he is in his career now. Like, I think he should have had at least 2 over a decade.
Agreed.
At least.
Agreed.
At least 2 over a decade. Now we're hitting like the second half of his career. Is Aaron, how many, is he 18 years in now, 19? Where is he at?
He's up there. I think he was 2005. So we're talking 17, 18 years.
See, so that's what I'm saying. Like, the front half of his decade, he's got 1. The back half, you got to get at least 1. Like, you have to, if you're going to, in my opinion, if you're going to be considered like one of the best talent, absolutely. He's got to get the championships. He's got to get it done.
And I don't know this answer. What's his record in NFC championship games? Because it can't be great. They've made it to that game a ton, and they never seem to advance to the Super Bowl.
I don't know the answer to that either.
Luuch usually has those stats on tap.
we'll find it here. I'll look it up here. Little crack research here.
That was a pretty terrible Saturday in January for both of us. I was at the Titans game, and I didn't even sit my ass in the seats before Tannehill threw that first pick on the first play of the game. So then we're in Nashville, we're in Broadway, we're boozing. I mean, I'm on the sauce, man. So we, broken heart. We go out of downtown. I go to the suburbs outside of Nashville. We go to grab some dinner. Didn't exactly sober up. I'm like, you know what? Like, this was a terrible day. Let's get the beers flowing still. I look up at the screen and I'm looking at Lambeau and I'm like, did the 49ers just beat the Packers?
Yeah.
Between both of those games, I thought I was in some other dimension. I still am shocked. Like, I think I'm more shocked at, I don't mean like pour salt in an open wound. I'm more shocked that the Packers lost that game. I think I'm so used to Tennessee choking that that was a hell of a day in sports and pretty bad for both of us as fans.
Yeah, that was an awful day. So it looks like he's 1-5 in NFC championships. He's lost 4 of them, 3 times in overtime. Five times he lost on the final play of the game.
I mean, can you just script it any worse for him though? And I mean, that is brutal.
That's tough, yeah.
That is legacy altering. Like, any of those. any of those, like the variance and things that could happen at the end of a game and in overtime. That's remarkable.
Insane.
Almost
and as a fan, I've kind of blocked all that out. So to reopen all these wounds, like, oh yeah, remember that one? I actually went down to the one when he was in Atlanta. Went down with my pops and my boy. Went down to the game, and they just got trucked, guys. It was just right away. The whole stadium's going nuts. Like it just he's got to get it done in these games. So again, would love to battle the Chief on this, but he's on to something here, and Rodgers got to get it done. We'll see how many years he's got left. Again, I'd say 2 to 3 max. So the clock is definitely ticking here on Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and if you've tuned into this podcast at any point throughout the last year, you would hear the Chiefs say, "This is a safe space. Let it all out." So
absolutely,
we do quite a bit of venting on here. We're like your therapists here. All right, Chief. I know we're on a bit of a time crunch here, so like fantasy relevance, let's tie this in a little bit. We talked a little bit about a guy like Sky Moore, a pick that kind of confused me, and I'm curious to hear your takes. I guess more so I want to see what direction the franchise takes maybe before the season starts is Kenneth Walker, who I love, going to Seattle. I know Chris Carson's hurt all the time, but he's still under contract. Rashard Penny had a great second half. I mean, finally, behind a terrible offensive line too, Rashard Penny was, winning GPPs for a couple of weeks. So I get it. It's a big running back by committee league, but I also caught some Pete Carroll quotes today, guys, when asked about DK Metcalf's contract. He said, "We'll figure it out." And that's not exactly what I want to hear, especially when his pal from Ole Miss, A.J. Brown, just forced his way out of Tennessee and got the bag. The defense is in shambles. Obviously, Drew Lock is your quarterback, and I'm like trying to be diplomatic here. But I wouldn't be shocked if there were some bigger moves coming out of Seattle. And with all due respect, they got to move on from Pete Carroll too. So that was a surprising pick for me. But if they do make some changes and Kenneth Walker's their guy for the future and they just want to run the crap out of the ball, then that's fine. I don't know. You got any take on what the hell Seattle's going to do, if anything, before training camp starts? Who are you eyeing?
Doesn't matter what they do. They're losing this season. I can tell you that right now.
It's a shame for Lockett and Metcalf because every week it's like, oh, Seattle's in a good spot. Are you going to play Lockett or Metcalf? And I usually pick wrong. This year it might be pick none of them. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on the Seahawks? I guess I just want to see where this team goes.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Chief here. It's going to be ugly. I mean, Drew Lock is not the answer ever. So I don't know what they're doing there. Geno Smith is the backup. We saw him have, one solid game, and then we saw the real Geno Smith come back to life here. Are they going to be in on Baker Mayfield? I don't think that's going to help you much. Honestly, guys, I'm not huge on Baker Mayfield either. So this is going to be a huge fantasy loss for Metcalf and Lockett. I wouldn't be surprised. Green Bay has been sniffing around there. Maybe you see some trades with these guys. The Walker pick, I get it because they want to establish it. As we know, they want to run the ball. But as far as looking at him from a dynasty lens, really not happy with that landing spot here. I mean, they're not going to be good. We don't know what that running back rotation is going to look like. So would have loved to see him land in a spot where we know he's going to be guaranteed some touches here. Maybe he takes that job in Seattle, but how valuable is a guy on a bad team running the ball in fantasy? I mean, you want them on a winning team. Seattle, it's going to be a while before they're a winning team. So really knocked him down on my rankings. He's still top 8 pick in rookie drafts, but he certainly took a hit here. Again, a running back that is he going to get passing game work? Is that going to go to somebody else? But on a 3-4 win team with Drew Lock as my quarterback, I'm probably staying away from Kenneth Walker for this season.
Is there anybody for either of you that I don't want to say jumps off the page, but will be fantasy relevant, maybe gaining some momentum come August in your home leagues or your high stakes stuff here? Typically it's a running back or a receiver. Some pretty good tight ends later in this draft, though. But we often see more of a learning curve for tight ends that come on in. It took Kyle Pitts a couple of weeks to get some steam, and looking forward to seeing his ceiling in the future for sure. It's like the only weapon that Mr. Desmond Ridder and Mariota will have this season. So could be a good fantasy season for Pitts. But I mean, what's Jahan Dotson going to bring to the table when has a target tree with McLaurin and, if Logan Thomas is healthy and, Carson Wentz throwing him the football? A lot of tough fits here. Is there a guy that you maybe like the most, Beer, out of any of these skill guys for fantasy?
I'm going to go down the list. I mean, it's easy to talk about, Drake London stepping in as the number one in Atlanta, Garrett Wilson, Burks. I mean, you're going to hear everybody talk about these guys. So I want to go down the list a little bit. A guy I really like, and we knew he was going to slide in the draft, but that's David Bell from Purdue, landing in Cleveland. Who the hell else are they throwing the ball to in Cleveland? Jarvis Landry is gone. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I think, has some potential here. Sure, they have 9,000 tight ends there. They're going to throw to their running back. But you give me David Bell paired up with Deshaun Watson, and we're taking this guy this late in rookie drafts. So if you want a steal in your rookie drafts, to me, it's David Bell. The other guy I'm keeping an eye on here, Luuch, is Dameon Pierce in Houston. I mean, that is a wide open running back room where this guy kind of underperformed in college a little bit, but I think he can step in here and be that primary back for Houston. They added Mechie as well. I think this offense going to take a step up here. Some of the pieces back in place from last season. Obviously, liked what they saw out of Davis Mills, who we got to say, guys, I think he surprised us all. Is he the guy? Is he not? I don't think anyone could say he didn't outperform any expectations, if any, that he had here. So just later in your drafts, guys to keep an eye on. Again, David Bell, I think, is going to be awesome in Cleveland, kind of steps right in as the new Jarvis Landry. Doesn't cost you anything. And then Dameon Pierce could be the day one starter at Houston at the running back position. So two guys I really like in this rookie class.
Here, you must have hopped in here pre-show, man. I've been on the David Bell.
There we go, Chief. There we go, baby.
He could not have ended up in a better situation. Yep. You get a quarterback that's been ostracized all last season. Know he wants to come into Cleveland and prove, hey, listen, I'm the man. I still got it. Wide receiver room is wide open. OBJ is long gone. David Bell might have 100 targets this season.
Yep,
this is not an exaggeration. And if they use him the way they did in college, he's not going to be down the field anyway. He's going to be like a Michael Thomas, possession guy, 5 yards, 8 yards, 12 yards. They're going to hammer him inside. He's a big target. I think David Bell's around 6'2", 220 or something like that. This guy should have as much fantasy production as any of the other top wide receivers. He's just going to get it done more like Michael Thomas. 10 to 12 targets, 8 or 9, 10 catches for 80, 90 yards, 100 yards, and probably a touchdown. And I think this team, their offense is going to have to change. It was catered to Baker Mayfield. Deshaun Watson is going to open this thing up. I've been high on David Bell since day one. Please, DraftKings, give us David Bell at 4K week one. That's all I have.
Absolutely.
Don't give him to us at 4K, and he's going to be borderline lock button for me in any matchup. And I'll let them prove me wrong that they're not going to use him like a number one receiver wherever they put him over the field. I don't think people remember or realize how much production he got last year with Plummer. Like, he got massive production against good teams. The guy plays in the Big Ten. Yeah, maybe it's not the SEC. Okay. He plays against top talent every week, and he issues the business every week. He doesn't have down weeks. It's going to be incredible with him in Cleveland. I'm probably as high on him as any other receiver in this draft because of the situation. The situation is going to make him really good this year, I think.
Yeah, he's going to be PPR gold. You talk about Green Bay, that's the guy I wanted, Chief. Like, somehow, some way, let's get our hands on David Bell and let Randall Cobb wheel away in his wheelchair. Let's stick David Bell in that spot now. Now we're cooking. But to land in Cleveland, like you said, can there be a better landing spot? We couldn't draw up a better spot where he literally has a shot to come in and be their top receiver right off the bat with Deshaun Watson, like you said, has a ton to prove here. I think David Bell going to surprise some people here this season.
Yeah.
How about a rookie of the year future on David Bell, Chief?
Listen, you're getting me excited. Oh man, that's a good one. If that one comes out, Let's get some money your way. Woo, I love that.
Yeah, that's a good call. I like that. And Deshaun Watson, like, listen, we could get into a whole other conversation about what his situation is, and we're not. But for fantasy football purposes solely, like it's a win for the skill players on that team for fantasy football. You think of the receivers, think of the tight ends, and as much as, ironically, I'm sitting here as a Titans fan, people talk about the stacked boxes Derrick Henry was facing. I mean, Nick Chubb wasn't getting much help himself there because of Baker Mayfield. So I think it's kind of a win for Chubb in terms of touchdown equity, points per drive, and opportunities in the red zone. I mean, that's fine and well that Deshaun Watson's there in Cleveland, but they have a fantastic offensive line. If that ball's inside the 5, we know who's getting the ball. Chubb, maybe Kareem Hunt. Of course, they've been splitting a little bit there, but I think it's just a win for the running backs on the team as well. Guys, I know we have to move on out of here. So is there anything else we didn't bring up you want to kind of get off your chest? I won't bring up any more Packers game managing drama. I promise.
Oh, I love the game manager. No, I mean, the whole Malik Willis thing was interesting to me. Ryan Tannehill basically saying, not my job to mentor this guy. How long is Tannehill going to be in Tennessee? Willis with his draft stock falling that far. I mean, you kind of lose faith. He's a first-round pick. Okay, we're feeling good about him. We know he has upside for fantasy. Can he acclimate to the league? I mean, playing at Liberty, obviously there's going to be a huge learning curve here. I don't think it's as bad as people are making it out to be. When you listen to the quotes from Tannehill, it's not like he flat out said, I'm not going to help this guy at all. So I think it got taken a little bit out of context, but his fall was interesting. So definitely keeping an eye on him to see if he can be that guy. Because, you put an athletic quarterback with a Derrick Henry, now you're cooking here. Treylon Burks, we know, work in progress, but does he step in and fill any of those A.J. Brown shoes? So a lot of stories in this draft. Jamison Williams, the trade up with the Lions. Like, I love the trade up. It was just a little confusing on why Jamison Williams, unless they're planning for next year. Like, we don't need you to rush back. We're kind of, we're sandbagging a little bit, be in the mix for C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young next year. Okay, now we got a ton of weapons on this offense. So those are a few of the things, guys. I could talk drafts for days and days and weeks and weeks. So I guess we got to cut it off somewhere. Maybe we can come back and do another one of these. But guys, an absolute pleasure. Appreciate it. Love the show. Appreciate you having me on. Always willing to talk football, sports, life, whatever you guys want. Great to be here as always.
Absolutely. And hey, I mean, we could piggyback that real quick. The Malik Willis. I mean, I just hope, if he evolves, he doesn't miss the Derrick Henry window completely. I mean, Henry's 28. Of course, he's a freak. We'll see how quickly he can adapt. I agree with you. I don't think it's as bad, the learning curve, as people are making it out to be. And then the whole Tannehill thing. I mean, Tannehill's focus needs to be getting better and winning football games. I mean, the guy said he's been going to therapy since the Bengals lost, and like he's got to focus on himself and leading that team. And he's been a good leader. The locker room likes him. It's not like he's going to totally hold anybody's hand. And Tannehill's playing for his NFL future. I mean, if he doesn't perform, he may never start again outside of maybe like a 1-year stopgap for somebody. Before the season, he was fantastic for Tennessee in the regular season, but, he played like a pumpkin in every playoff game he's been in. So, this is it. He has a lot of pressure, and, despite losing A.J. Brown, like you said, they have a phenomenal defense and a winnable division. And they brought in Austin Hooper, and Derrick Henry's healthy. And I think the big thing here is Tim Kelly coming over from the Houston Texans to be the offensive assistant here. That's the guy who took raw Deshaun Watson. I know Watson was a great prospect, great player at Clemson, but he did wonders with Deshaun Watson in that Texans offense. So I'm excited to see what Tim Kelly could do here, not only with Ryan Tannehill, but especially Malik Willis. Chief, any closing thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm going to close this thing out, man. I got a massive hot take, and it's going to be somewhat controversial, so we don't have to sit on it. We'll just let the people stew on it. Maybe we can squeeze another one of these in later. Miami draft Skylar Thompson in the 7th round. And listen to me. I'm not a believer in Skylar Thompson, but my hot take is he starts at least a couple games this season.
Okay.
That's my hot take. Skylar Thompson starts a couple games this season in a Miami Dolphins uniform. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Don't get much hotter than that. I mean, it would not. I mean, wouldn't be a surprise. I mean, Tua, it's kind of like the Jalen Hurts thing. Like, okay, here's Tyreek Hill, here's Jalen Waddle, here's like, how many weapons do we have to give you to see if you are our guy? So I don't hate that. I mean, Skylar Thompson again. I'm not a huge fan either, but
nope, I'm not.
Tua has not done much in this league to deserve him holding that spot forever. So. Sometimes it's, hey, let's see what else we got. Hell, Ryan Fitzpatrick took his job for a while. So anything is possible here. I love it, Chief. That's a great call.
A lot of pressure on a lot of quarterbacks, and maybe even including Zach Wilson, who we didn't talk about, who is obviously lesser appeal shiny toys than Miami, but still they're trying to surround Zach Wilson with talents as well in New York. So a lot of stuff to sit on and think about. And yeah, I'd love to maybe bring this back when OTAs and maybe once again when we're talking preseason and depth charts and risers and ADP and the whole nine. Let's definitely circle back here. So let's get on out of here. I know, Chief, you got to go record a huge morning grind baseball slate. So Godspeed, my friend, and best of luck getting through that bad boy tonight. But it's been a pleasure, as usual, for my guy, Will Priester, the Chief, and the Beer Makers fan, Chris Prince. We appreciate you. I'm Justin Carlucci. Good luck, everybody. Take care.